Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. And thank you, all of you here in the audience. And thank all of you who are joining us online for your attendance today. I'm Stan DeJarnett. It's my honor to chair this State Board of Education. And I now call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. And as board members, thank you for your engagement and all the fun we had last night. And Rich, thank you and Melissa for hosting us at home. It was a wonderful evening. The staff and the board really enjoyed it. We have a lot of guests with us this morning, so if you'll be patient with me as I walk through the list, and if for some reason we've missed you, either because you didn't sign in or you signed in after we already the list was already delivered to me, please stand up and introduce yourself. If I do inadvertently skip over you. From Cobb County, we have Marla Zimmerman and Ruby Zimmerman. Just wave and say hello. Oh, there you go. Jackie Jones from Hall County. Rick Weir from Fulton County. Ramona Edwards from the Lawrence County Schools. Good morning. Jennifer Turner from Walton County. Cassandra Giles from Polk County. Welcome. Stephanie Pickens from Forsyth County. Good morning. Amanda Feuder, I hope I pronounced that right. Well, I was introduced as Stan Degenerate at a board meeting. I get all that. It was actually at a character education conference, too, which made it even funnier. But Amanda, you're from Cherokee County. You already know that, but welcome. Ebony Beharry from Richmond County. Good morning. Lauren Westbrook from the Forsyth County Schools. Dr. Cecilia Jackson from the DeKalb County Schools. Good morning. Shelley Worley Griffin from the Spalding County Schools. Herchandra Glover from DeKalb County.
Good morning.
Good morning. Harmon Tyson from Hall County. Terry Flowers from Fannin County. Good morning. Rob Bell from Fayette County. Good morning, Rob. Beth Haynes from Decoding Dyslexia, Georgia. Also from Decoding Dyslexia, Georgia, Missy Purcell. Lynn Wilson with the CTAE. Ben Wiggins, our friend Ben Wiggins, the Executive Director of the Gale Organization. Rob, I've got you down here twice, but you can wave your hand twice, that's okay. Dr. Lindy Morgan from the Deal Center. Graham Thompson, a lobbyist here and a legislative specialist. Kamala Johnson from the Perry Career Center. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Clayton County.
Margaret Ciccarelli from Page. Welcome, Margaret. Rachel Kinsall from my home district. Hey, Rachel, from Morgan County Schools. Anybody, did I miss someone? If you did, please stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Cynthia Diggs, I'm an education specialist for Northport and South Georgia for the Army.
Thank you.
Megan Swindle and her parents.
Wait, oh yeah, Dr. Claire Buck with the GASIS organization, GASIS Executive Director. Welcome, Claire. And Megan, where are you?
Megan Swingle, John Swingle, and Karen Swingle with Decoding Dyslexia, Georgia.
Thank you, thank you. Glad all of you are here. Anybody else?
Scott Johnson.
Huh?
Scott Johnson.
Where's Scott? Scott. Scott Johnson, the chairman of the Georgia Literacy Council, and as all of us know, former board member here and former board chair. Welcome, Scott. Glad to have you with us. All right. And I see there are a lot of staff from the department here. Thank all of you for being here today. And again, thank all of you that are joining us online. I'm now going to call on our Georgia Teacher of the Year, Ms. Holly Witcher, to lead us in our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be here to gather as a group from all different walks, trying to come together to make decisions for our students. It's such an honor to be able to be here. So Father, I just pray that the time that we have together will be well spent and that we will glorify you in all that we do. Thank you so much for this time and help us to get home safely. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's now time for us to begin building the agenda for the Committee of the Whole agenda. So as I call on each committee chair for a report, if you will please indicate which of the items on your committee list are recommended for the consent agenda and which items, if any, need to be pulled for a separate vote or some other action. First, I'll call on Mr. Leonte. No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna call on Mr. Frank Griffin with the Rules Committee. Not a problem. Mr. Griffin, what about, you have three items. How
Yes,
do you-
sir. Item number 1 will be placed on the consent agenda. Items 2 and 3 will be pulled for a separate vote.
Items 1 will be added to the consent agenda. Items 2 and 3 will be pulled for a separate vote. District flexibility in charter schools, Mr. Sweeney.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We have three items. All three will be on the consent agenda.
Thank you. All three items added to the consent agenda. Mr. Benton for the Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Items 1 through 9, recommend be moved to the consent agenda. Thank you.
All right, items 1 through 9, that's every item on the Budget Committee list will be moved to the consent agenda. All right. Mr. Donaldson, could I have your recommendation for appeals and other items?
Mr. Chair, I make a recommendation to move the following to the consent agenda: the individual student waivers, the minutes of the November 7, 2024 executive session, the minutes of the November 2024 State Board meeting, the December 2024 personnel report, and the December 2024 legal report.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. All right. While we are building our agenda, I'm gonna go ahead and deliver the chair's report, which is fairly brief, but I want everybody here in the room to know, and all of you as board members to know, that we have had a couple of our board members earn some well-deserved recognition from some other agencies or associations or advocacy groups, people who are very, very involved in our ecosystem. I think all of you know that our 3rd District Representative Helen Rice has been very, very involved with the International Dyslexia Association, the Georgia chapter. And I want to let all of you know that she was recognized recently with the Georgia Leadership and Literacy Award from the Georgia chapter of the International Dyslexia Association. Helen, you want to say a few things about that? Or I know they wrote you a very nice letter and I got a copy of it, but you want any comments you want to make?
Well, I will, you know me. Well, I was so surprised when I got the call that I had been selected for that it brought me to tears, because you don't work, I mean, you work because it's about students and about kids. And when that happened, it was such a surprise, but it was a great weekend. And I have said this before, I have learned so much from this group of women, and they have taught me about dyslexia, and they have taught me about the important things that are necessary to teach kids to read, as we have here on this board. But I feel like I've been joined at the hip with them for many, many years, and the love and dedication that they have they really were the ones that gave me that. I've been a teacher, I'll always be a teacher, and I always want to learn. But learning came in a different model with them because they were parents too that were dealing with their children. And I thought it was so important that we learned so much about dyslexia. And to the governor who put that in as a law and signed it into law. It has just brought the right attention. And we had a committee that actually worked on the law and made it into a rule. And I think that was really the start of peeling that onion back to find out what we really needed in our state to teach kids to read, and that was structured literacy. So thank y'all for that, and it's just been an honor, and I had a great weekend with you.
Stand up and take a bow, Helen. Well deserved. They and if it was up to me, they should name this the Helen Rice Leadership and Literacy Award. Maybe they'll give that some thought, because you championed this for many, many years. We also, not to be outdone, Lisa Kennemore was recently recognized by the Georgia Charter Schools Association as a champion for children. I don't know that there's a better name for an award out there, and I don't know that there's a more deserving recipient. Lisa, tell us a little bit about that and when this happened, and just a little bit about how this came about.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not sure how it came about, but my thought is when I look in the mirror, I see all the children across the state. It's not about me, it's not about the board members, it's about our kids. And when we focus on doing the work that will help our kids have a brighter future, that is phenomenal. And so all of us deserve an award for being champions for children. It's not just our own children, all of our children belong to us. They are our future, and if we don't focus on what's good and what's right for them and what will help them, then our future is not bright. Our future is not something that we can look forward to. So being a champion for children, when I got the phone call, I was really surprised. I said, wow, I'm honored, and I am also just so excited about what the charter schools are able to do, giving our children choice, and I will fight for any child. I tell people I represent the 4th district on the board, but I represent the whole state for anyone who calls me. So I'm very appreciative and thankful for Dr. Holliday and the board of the Georgia Charter School Association for nominating me for this award. Thank you.
Now stand up and thank you. Lisa, Helen, both of you have set a high bar for that kind of engagement and support. And it keeps us all mindful of what you just said. And I think all of you that have ever attended a board meeting know that Lisa is not just a champion for children in charter schools and our public schools. She is also a tireless advocate for the children in our state schools, Georgia Academy for the Blind, Georgia School for the Deaf, and Atlanta Area School for the Deaf. And we really, really appreciate your advocacy and your championing their cause as well. And she's been collecting Christmas donations for the children, and so thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. You make us all proud. Mr. Donaldson, I think you have a brief message that you'd like to bring to us on behalf of the foundation. Is that correct?
Yes. I think y'all know that Kenneth Mason and I serve on the Georgia Foundation for Public Education, and we administer the Georgia Peach Tax Credit. So I doubt that many people in this room are gonna owe less than $1,000 in state taxes. And you have an opportunity to divert your state taxes to a project of your choosing. I doubt there's many congressional districts that don't have a school that is participating in the school fundraising plan. So you can choose to give $1,000, or if you're married, you can do $2,500. Isn't that right, Ms. Petty? You can choose to donate that to one of your schools. It's a great program. It allows you to decide where your state taxes that you owe go. And there's a short video we're going to show on how to do it. It's very easy. Everybody at the table can do it. I'm sure y'all can. So.
Georgia Foundation for Public Education's Peach Education Tax Credit Application Walkthrough video. In just 3 minutes, you'll be able to see how easy it is to apply for the Peach Education Tax Credit. First, go to gfpe.org and click on Tax Credit in the navigation menu. Or you can click on the navy blue box on the homepage. Next, click on Apply Today. You will be asked if you're a returning donor or first-time donor. We're going to click on First-Time Donor for this video. Next, select your taxpayer filing status in the drop-down. Some of the options include individual, married, and corporation. Choose the best option based on your status. If you're not sure which filing status to choose, make sure to ask your CPA. Let's continue with the individual filer option. Fill in the form fields with your information, making sure it's the same information that appears in your tax forms. The amount requested section is where the Peach Education Tax Credit comes in. Enter the amount you would like to request for the credit. For an individual filer, the limit is $1,000. The limit varies depending on your filing status. Remember that you must purchase the credit before the end of the calendar year to be able to claim it when filing your taxes. Next, indicate how you heard about this credit. Select whichever option best applies to you. If none of them apply, choose Other and type your response in the new field that appears. The last drop-down asks for school fundraiser or specific fund, please designate. This gives you the option to designate it to a school district or content area of your choosing if they are listed in the drop-down. If you choose not to designate a school or content area, we will distribute the funds through innovative grants. There are 2 quick checkbox questions remaining. The last checkbox is a required authorization, so make sure you fully read it before proceeding. Next, click Continue, and it will ask you to review your application. After reviewing, click Submit to GFPE, and that completes Georgia's Peach Education Tax Credit application process. Next, you will receive 3 letters in the mail. The first letter is a confirmation letter to inform you that you've received pre-approval from the Department of Revenue. Once you receive this letter, submit your donation online or send a check to GFPE. Next, you'll receive a receipt that GFPE has received the donation. Lastly, you'll receive the Qualified Education Tax Credit computation, which you will use when filing your taxes. The tax credit gives you the option to pay your taxes the way you want to while positively impacting Georgia schools. Check out the Art Impact link to learn how grants have already made positive changes in Georgia schools. Visit gfpe.org to apply for your tax credit today. Thank you.
And Kenneth gave out the annual report.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
gave
mention
out
that,
the
Kenneth.
annual report yesterday. We had our board retreat in October in Albany at Four Seas Academy, College and Career Academy. We talked about that model yesterday. There's a quote from the CEO, Chris Hatcher there. We had phenomenal experience. They even had students there, robotic students there to walk us through their lab. They have done a lot for their school and community with workforce development using the Peach. So you could see, you could see it in action. And so thank you, Matt, for reminding everybody about that. And if you have any questions, Matt and I are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We ready with the agenda yet?
Well, let's just we'll take a short break now. We'll recess for just a few minutes till we get the agenda printed up, and then we'll be right back.
just a lingering. I'm not sick, actively sick, I promise.
Oh, yeah, I said some.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. We're back in session. I'm now gonna call on department staff to deliver the superintendent's report. Oh, sure. Well, let's.
I didn't hear what y'all said.
Do you have some presentations to make, Barbara?
Do we have a presentation?
Well,
We have with us today, a group of CTAE teachers. They are called the Lead CTAE Group. These teachers, make application and they are selected. So it's quite a prestigious group, and they go through a year-long leadership program. And if y'all just stand up real quick, I know you raised your hands when your names were called out, but I just want y'all to. We started last year bringing them to a state board meeting. We found out that most teachers had not been to a state board meeting before, so they wanted to come and see what that was like. I think that that's very important for them to be able to see what goes on here and how that impacts their local school district. And to see a teacher sitting on this board is a big deal, I think, across the state of Georgia. When we put our teachers through this leadership program, we look at a lot of different topics that are relevant to the work that they do. One thing that they do today, they'll be having lunch with our board members. So we've matched up our teachers with their state board members to make sure that they know who they are and that y'all know who these teachers are. Many of you already know each other, I'm sure. But just those communications and all that they do throughout the state is a big impact on the work that they do. Thank you for supporting this program and being willing to talk with our teachers and help them in the different aspects that they do when it comes to leadership. I know we've talked about this in board meetings before about how important that leadership piece is with the teacher and how we can grow our teachers, and that's exactly what we're doing with our lead group. And this is like an initiative that we've done. It's a partnership between 3 different groups of folks. It's the Georgia Department of Education, CTERN, our Recess Network Board, which Lynn Wilson is our executive director, and she's here today, and our professional organization, GACTE, which Jody Reeves is the executive director of. I'm sure y'all know her. And while I'm here talking about CTAE, I've got to throw in something that took place last week. I know at our state board meeting, we introduced to you 6 people that were going on to the national competition. We have a national winner, and that's Rhonda Samples. She's the Administrator of the Year for the whole nation. She's from Hall County. Fenna Petty is a member of this organization, our professional organization, and is always right there cheering on our leaders from Georgia. So thank you so much today for allowing this group to come and be a part of the state board meeting.
Those of you that are in the room that just thank you for being here. And thank you for the work you do in your district. I maintain every time we have the opportunity that the best legislation that was ever passed was the legislation that put the State Teacher of the Year as an ex officio member of our board. because and Holly is a great example of this, and if you were here yesterday, you heard her speak very eloquently with the voice of the teacher. Those of you that are, regardless of the school district or county that you represent, you have that same opportunity back in your home district. And we are always we try to be mindful of the work you do and the impact of the decisions that we make on the work you do. I said yesterday that I'm absolutely positive that we're gonna see the gains that we're looking for in a variety of areas. Yesterday, the topic was literacy. I know we're gonna move the needle on literacy in this state because there's a big focus on that right now. But I'm also very happy that there's a focus on career and technical education in this state because that moves the needle on workforce development, economic development, and everything else in this state. So we appreciate the work you do, the role you play, and we appreciate the time that you've taken away from your school to come here today. If you've seen one state board meeting, you've seen one state board meeting. They're all a little different. That's been my experience. But I want you to know that the people that sit around this desk have you in their minds every day when we deliberate, and these people, I cannot praise them highly enough for not just the recognition that they get from outside organizations, but the work that they do behind the scenes to prepare for our discussions. The discussion yesterday was a good example, I think, of the deliberations that we undertake when we make decisions, because we know they're important and they have a far-reaching impact in some cases. So if I encourage you that you're always welcome to come back, or you can join us online, as many are today, and watch our deliberations at future meetings. We meet 10 months out of the year, and we're actually going to vote on the calendar for 2025 in a few minutes. So thank you for being here today. Matt?
I'm not going to talk about screeners, so don't worry. Superintendent's report. We did want to do a special recognition. We have someone that, as you probably know, the last 10 years have been quite a journey and transformation for our school improvement work. If you talk to districts on the ground, I think they've seen the impact of that work. Stephanie Johnson heads that team up, and she has a great team that works across the agency. But we have someone that's retiring. I've already met with her, see if I can have a few of her TRS years, but she won't give any of them up. But we want to recognize her today. Amy Alderman, if you'll come up here. Come on up, Amy. And I'll let Stephanie do the dish in a second about Amy, because they work closely together. But Amy's been with us for 9 years. She's served in multiple capacities here at the department. She's coached leaders. She's coached educators as well. And she's the type of person that just rolls up their sleeves and gets things done. She's got a quiet, I would say, demeanor, but she's a force to be reckoned with. She gets things done for Georgia's educators and students, and it's just been a real honor of mine to work alongside Amy, and I'm sure all the staff feel the same. Amy, we put a boot on your car in the parking garage, so you can't leave us after the meeting. We're trying our best to keep you here, but congratulations. Well deserved. Thank you for everything you've done.
I have to just say something before I turn it over. Just want to let you all know a little bit about Amy Alderman, our director. 30 years that she has given to education in multiple roles, beginning with teacher, principal in Atlanta Public Schools, coming to the State Department. And I think you worked your way all the way up here, SES, DES, something else, lead, program manager. She had all the jobs, as we always say. She's had all the jobs, in school improvement. But when I say an incredible right hand, if you've ever worked with me, I am on 10 every single day. I mean, it's just the truth. But she is so calming, and it doesn't matter what is going on. Like, I get off the phone and she's like, I've heard everything that you said. This is what the process can look like. Those type things are, she's just that right-hand person that knows how to get things done, knows how to organize, knows how to communicate with everyone. She's the type person that she can be cussing you out and you're smiling when you finish. Because she's just that person with that demeanor, and she steps in to help everyone. And I just attribute a lot of the success in our department to her work ethic and her dedication. It wasn't just to our department. That's something Dr. Paul, when she was the director, she said the one thing about Amy, she's dedicated to the agency. It's to all of Georgia Department of Ed. It wasn't just to us. She wanted to have a better Georgia all around. And we saw that before she even took this role. So Amy, I don't know who I'm gonna talk to every single day, 30 times a day. We literally talk, like I'm gonna need some mental help behind this. We still have that EPA. Like I need to talk to Arvita, because when you talk to someone every day, all day long, and they're your great thought partner, and now she's gonna be enjoying retirement, mostly away from me. I want everybody to know I did not drive this lady away. And I want that rumor to get out there that she ran her away, but we appreciate you. We love you. You're just a sister, colleague, everything to us, and you honestly can't be replaced. Thank you. Look, I'm saying it publicly, you can always come back.
This is unexpected but very much appreciated. The past 9 years have definitely been the highlight of my educational career. Having the opportunity to work alongside amazing educators, like the people in this room, has really been an honor and a privilege, and I truly appreciate everything that you all do. It's been great to have the opportunity to work with Matt Jones and Mr. Woods and Dr. Johnson, just having a vision and a mission that you believe in, and really knowing that everybody in the organization is doing whatever they can to do what's best for children. So I appreciate everything that the board does, everything that the administration at the DOE does, and I will definitely miss the work and the people, but looking forward to the next chapter. So thank you.
All right, it's time for us to begin building the agenda. Well, we have built the agenda. All of you have it at your place. Take a minute to look at it. It's on both sides of the sheet. Make sure you have front and back before you. And after you've had a chance to review it, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Motion by Donaldson, second by Griffin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. As you can see it printed on the list. After you've had a minute to review that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Sweeney,
Second.
second by Zoller. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now, let's move on to the two items on the Rules Committee agenda that we have pulled for a separate vote. I'll take the second item first. Yesterday, you were given a calendar option for the 2025 board meeting. Yesterday, we discussed the option of moving the January meeting from, and I'll make sure I get this right, I believe it's on the calendar that's listed, it's on there as the 15th and 16th of January. we wanna move that meeting to the 14th and 15th of January. And the rationale for that is this. The Georgia Chambers Eggs and Issues Breakfast this coming year is gonna be scheduled on a Tuesday morning rather than a Wednesday morning. And meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday of that week would allow us to attend that meeting before we come to the committee meetings later that day. And without having to be, if those of you that are traveling from long distance, it saves you an extra day of travel and lodging. So I'm gonna alter the calendar recommendation just slightly and make the change for the January 2025 meeting to January 14 and 15. And the recommendation for all the others are as printed on the agendas. I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar.
So moved with your amendment.
As amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Downing and a second by Kennemore. Any further discussion?
Just a question.
Yes.
Do we have a date for the retreat yet in October, or is that still pending?
That is still pending. We
Okay,
do not have a
that's fine.
date for the retreat yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Did you just volunteer to chair the retreat?
If we can have it in Gainesville.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the calendar as amended for 2025, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the universal reading screener item. All of you were here yesterday, and there was a rich discussion and an animated one, I might add, about the two options. After yesterday's meeting, there was a lot of this conversation with staff from the Sandra Dunnigan Deal Center and also staff and the superintendent from the Department of Education, as Mr. Valadares recommended, about somehow coming together on this with some kind of, and maybe the word compromise is not the most accurate term, but I think it's in all of our interest and the best interest of everyone that's going to be having to implement this, that if we don't have competing recommendations on the table. So right now, the recommendation that both parties have agreed to is that we take the 4 screeners that were recommended by the Deal Center. And I want to make sure that you know which screeners those are. So I'll read them to you. Pull that up. As luck would have it, here we go. Those screeners are in this order: Amira ISIP, which was the top-rated screener by the Deal Center; EPS Reading Assistant from EPS Learning, which was the second highest-rated screener by the Deal Center; Star Universal Reading Suite, which is the third highest-rated screener by the Deal Center from Renaissance Learning; and M-Class with Dibble's 8th edition from Amplify Education, which is the 4th screener recommended by the Deal Center. Dr. Morgan, do I have that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And we are proposing to add a 5th screener, which is actually the 5th screener on the Deal Center's list of all screeners that were recommended, and that is the iReady screener. The iReady Universal Screening Suite. That is the 4th screener on the Department of Education and the superintendent's recommendation, and that would give us 5 screeners that would be up for approval. And as all of you know, the legislation that we're, parameters that we're operating under, Senate Bill 464 says up to 5. So, this incorporates some input from both parties. I realize that it's not gonna make everyone happy. But we have both groups have agreed to support this recommendation. And Mr. Valadares, this was your idea, and I appreciate your leadership on this issue. So I'm gonna kick it over to you and let you, if you have any questions or comments you'd like to make, and I'll let you make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, after looking at OCGA 22-153.1, which asks the board to approve a list of no more than 5 universal reading screeners, and hearing from our teacher of the year who sits on the board with the considerations of the implementation as well as the Department of Education. In addition to the fulsome report, very detailed report, from the Deal Center Literacy Screener Advisory Group, the recommendation and motion is to have the 4 recommended universal reading screeners on the Deal Center's list, as well as iReady Universal Screening Suite from the DOE and the Deal Center's list.
So that's the motion?
Correct.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Zoller. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any discussion?
I have some discussion because that was not the understanding yesterday when we left. I don't know whoever met. And this is just a point of order to make clear. We talked about the 4 screeners from the Deal Center, which was, we were asked to vote on those screeners from the Deal Center and having no more than 5. It was only recommended to have 4 because they were all in a type-based, and every one of those screeners checked the box to make sure that we had what we needed to be able to screen for the characteristics of dyslexia and for reading. All of a sudden, at the last minute on Friday, we've had 6 days as of today when iReady came up. If we're gonna add something to it, we need to know more about iReady and why you think it is equivalent to what the Deal Center recommended. When I read every page of this, I didn't see it equivalent. I saw that it made a cut, but it didn't check all the boxes. There were several areas in that, and that doesn't mean it's not good. It's easy to administer, yes, but there's some things that in categorizing it with the other screeners, I don't think it hit the target. So I would like to hear from Dr. Morgan a little bit more about this. And so I thought we were having 2 recommendations. We were gonna look at, because I knew that there was a lead here to add something. But if we're gonna add something that we've only had 6 days and we really don't know, can you tell me a lot about iReady?
No.
So I just feel like this is not fair to our children, our districts. And I said this yesterday, I think what we were talking, that was more curriculum things that were added to a screener is very, one single tool. It doesn't take as much time to learn how to implement a screener, but it is the one key thing that you need to make sure you have the best screener when you start the process of trying to deal with dyslexia and reading and teaching kids to read. So, point of order, I think that we have a recommendation on the out here. You've got a second, but that is not what I heard yesterday, and there might need to be 2 recommendations and vote separately.
Ms. Zoller?
Well, we did talk about it at the end of the committee meeting, about a compromise, and,
Yeah, we said compromise, but we didn't say we were gonna present a slate.
okay, well, but here, what I think, first of all, I don't think it's a win or lose that we pick, we gotta go, if we don't go 100% with the deal, but, which I love, and I said yesterday that if that's what was on the table, that's what I would vote for, okay? But it's not a win or lose. What we're saying, what we're doing is adding, based on the law, that we can pick up to 5 screeners. The Deal Center did not recommend 5 screeners, okay? So what I think is, it sounds to me like it's more like you think this is like a win or lose. What I'm saying is this is more for the children, and it also takes into consideration the transition that school systems are gonna have to make. Because even though the law says that on August 1st, whatever the date is, 2025, they've got to be 100% with this, we know in 181 school districts, they're not going to. And so what this does is offer an opportunity that's gonna make it easier for them to make this transition, still with the opportunity for the free screener, still with the opportunity for all 4 of the deal recommended screeners, just adding the one that's being used the most in the school systems right now, with data involved with that. So, look, I hear you, but I feel like this was the direction we were going in yesterday, and, I'm not surprised by it.
Well, I am.
Ms. Kenmore?
With all due respect, it is a win or lose. And it's our kids. Our kids will either get proper and accurate identification of their skill sets, and they will get proper alignment for MTSS, or they won't. And when it comes down to these screeners, we received a recommendation from Dr. Morgan and LSAG of 4 screeners. Already is 13 points below the 4th screener. I'd like to know what happened for iReady to be 13 points below, but all of a sudden we have a slate where iReady is added on, and we hadn't had a discussion. We didn't have a slate here to be proposed. I don't know if Dr. Morgan agreed to have iReady on there. I know that Superintendent Woods put iReady on his recommendation, but I'd never heard that there was a coalition, for them to coalesce and to agree to have iReady put on the slate for us to vote on. I'd like to have more discussion and at least hear some information from Dr. Morgan on what on iReady, and give us some more information of why it's 13 points. That's a lot. That's a big difference. And yes, there are winners and losers, and I want to make sure our kids are winners.
I want the kids to be winners too, but I'm saying I do not see that if we are having the 4 that the deal center are recommending, I think it's a good compromise. And sometimes you do have to make a good compromise to be able to bring all the 181 school systems along, because they're at different places at different times. So when I said winners and losers, I didn't mean about the kids, about the equipment. To me, the equipment, it's important, but it doesn't mean anything to me compared to the teachers, compared to the actual one-on-one interaction with students. We cannot put our thoughts and prayers and direction completely into a machine and what a machine says. The screeners are important, and I'm gonna vote on one, and I think they're important to it. But what's more important is how teachers interact, how schools interact, and how local education authorities are able to function, in my view.
Martha, you had MAP on there too. You have a ton of other, if you look at the list of the other systems that are using this. So we select that over MAP. And that was the other one that the superintendent recommended.
All these are being selected over others. Anyway, I'm done, thank you.
All right, hold on. Mr. Downey had raised his hand.
Yesterday, I was going to vote for the 4, and my vote yesterday, the way the meeting left, I was gonna vote for the 4 recommendations from the deal center. I put a lot of weight into the work that they've done. And I would very much like to know, because I'm prepared to vote for this, I hate to use the word compromise, but I'm like Rich, you gotta work a deal sometimes, right? But that's what the recommendation is, and the deal center has gone along with this recommendation. And I would like to know, I'd like to have that confirmation, I guess, from Dr. Morgan. I'd like to hear, just very briefly.
Yes, absolutely.
How that happened, because I put stock into what they believe. That's how I'm gonna vote. If the deal center says this is fine, I'm doing it, because that's what I was gonna do yesterday. And if that's okay, I'd like to, if she briefly can.
Happy to do that, but I want to remind everybody that I said at the very beginning, this is not going to make everybody
Correct.
happy.
Absolutely.
But we do need to move forward on this.
Absolutely.
But yes, Dr. Morgan, if you'd like to make a comment, feel free to do so. So if you have, yeah, please, if you don't mind.
I was aware that this would be the proposal this morning. However, I was not asked whether I supported it. Given that this work was done across a period of 4 months with consensus by a committee, I do not feel comfortable changing the recommendations of that committee in order to agree with adding iReady. Our report shows that it is significantly different from the 4 that we recommended. We didn't conduct a statistical test, but if you did an analysis of the top 4 versus iReady, I think you would see a statistically significant difference, probably more than a standard deviation difference between those tools. I'm not a boots on the ground practitioner. If I were allowed to invite a committee member to speak about iReady, I would love to do that at this time.
Anyone object to that?
I have no objection.
And I want to be clear that I'm not asking the Deal Center to change their report. They recommended 4 screeners. Those 4 screeners are on the current proposal. We're trying to give a nod to the department's recommendation that takes into account the screeners that are in use around Georgia within the limitations of Senate Bill 464, which only allows up to 5. And I'm not going to restate all my comments from yesterday, but as all of us are reminded, I want to remind everyone that the top rated screener on this list, on both lists, as a matter of fact, will be offered at no cost to school districts. And it's my belief, based on my experience, that many districts are going to migrate in that direction, given the opportunity to do that. I also want to make sure that you understand that in this current year's budget, the one we are currently operating under, there was, I think it's $5.1 million, correct me if I'm wrong, staff, in the budget for screeners. Well, in next year's budget, there's going to be, that budget amount is going to be reserved for 1 screener, the free screener. So if they use state budget money to pay for any other screener other than Amira, which is the top rated and which is the one that will be offered at no cost, they'll have to fund it themselves rather than use state funding to purchase it or any other screener as they did this year. So there's going to be a migration toward the free screener for quality and financial reasons. I'll be quiet, but please be clear. I didn't ask the superintendent or Dr. Morgan to change their recommendation. They recommended 4, the department and the superintendent, and I'm sorry he's still on his way here from a school visit, recommended the Deal Center's 3 of 4, and then the 2 most commonly used screeners. And the recommendation on the table right now is a hybrid of those 2 recommendations so that we only have 1 vote. Now, you can vote it up or vote it down.
Can we, Mr. Chairman, may we hear from someone as?
Having said that, if there's no objection from the board, if you have a practitioner that wants to talk about iReady,
Yes, please. I'd like to call Missy Purcell.
Thank you. I did serve on the Literacy Screener Advisory Group and have a lot of boots on the ground experience with iReady, and wanted to discuss how you guys brought up the 13-point discrepancy, and if you look at each of the constraints that we looked at, that discrepancy becomes much wider, and it also gives us a little insight into what that might look like for a school to help them identify a student who is struggling. And I think that's what we have to keep at the forefront of this conversation is, does it help us identify those students? If it fails to do that consistently, the student will never get to the interventions that we keep bringing up in this conversation, which I know are important, but they'll never get to those interventions if this fails to identify them. And that happens quite frequently with iReady. The reason it does is because if you look at the constructs measured, which were all aligned to each of the state laws, HB 538 and SB 48, you'll notice that iReady scored 6 points below the mean of the top 4. So there's a giant discrepancy in how it measures the constraints of the law. 6 points off the mean. So that's taking that top screener that we have, Amira, down to the bottom one on our top 4. And even the mean, it's 6 points off of that. So that's how it closely aligns to the law as it is written. That is a little concerning. Each of those areas we measured, not just does it measure the constraint of the law, but how well it measures it. And what does the data tell us about the validity and the reliability of that tool to measure each of those constraints? So it scored poorly, which on the boots on the ground, what that looks like is a child can take that assessment, and iReady has a history of a child doing well early on in that assessment on lower skills. And because it does well on the lower skills, it never moves the child to more advanced skills. Children who have dyslexia have the capability of learning to read. So it's likely that they can do well on those lower portions of those assessments. But because the test no longer continues to assess them and it tests them out, which is language that iReady uses in their reports, we never know that they are struggling in more advanced skills that go beyond foundational levels. Therefore, those children are often tested average. And then these children get to 3rd and 4th grade and can't read. And now we have children who can't read and they've adopted more comorbidities. So it's important to know that those 13 points matter. It's very simple for us in a room to think, oh, it's just 13 points. But 13 points actually means that there's weaknesses in how that assessment is getting the information that teachers so desperately need to work with our students. Another area that I want to address, I won't go through all of the areas because I know we have limited time, and I do appreciate you giving me this moment to speak. But I also wanted to address that it is very limited feedback to teachers, which was another area that it scored poor on. It gives a more global, large picture. It lacks detailed information on what the child is specifically struggling with, which can lead to an overgeneralization with interventions. Once again, the end goal is to get the kid into interventions. If the teacher doesn't have specific information about what the child is struggling in, they are more likely to not know how to individually and specifically intervene for that child to make progress so that we can see our students become proficient readers. And my last point that I wanted to address was, you'll notice on the constraints that Dr. Lindy shared yesterday on page 10 of her slideshow, that we have the progress monitoring tools as well as the administration time. We talk about teachers and districts. One of the greatest gifts we can give a teacher is time. It scored very low on the amount of minutes. It takes a long time to administer the iReady. Schools are spending a lot of time giving the iReady, using the diagnostic tools. This also has a reputation on the street where students begin to hate iReady because oftentimes when it doesn't actually identify their correct needs, because it has a pretty poor sensitivity level, that those children end up working on skills either below or above their level, so they're constantly frustrated and annoyed at having to sit on these computers and work on these levels because it has misguided their level and given us poor information. So I think it's really important. My big point here to say is those 13 points matter, especially when you look at the mean of the top 4. You can see how far off it is in each of the specific areas. But I think the most important is off on the constraints of the law. It's 6 points off the mean, which means it's poorly doing its job. Is it doing its job? Yeah, it is, but it's poorly doing its job. We want our students to be able to have access and our teachers to have access to tools. As an educator and a parent in a system where I sit daily in IEP meetings and I see the results of this on the ground and how children are not being identified and they're not having access to MTSS and the proper interventions, I would respectfully wish for you guys to reconsider adding a screener that does not have a reputation, but also the data that we collected over a very lengthy process at the great guidance of the Deal Center, and remove the screener from the list and go with the ones that were properly vetted so that we can ensure that every kid in Georgia can become a proficient reader. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Purcell, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ma'am. Let me, before we, I know where you're headed, but, let me make sure, is there, I wanna follow up the proper procedure here. We have a motion and a second on the table, and you all know what the motion is. It involves 5 screeners. If the motion fails, or if, we can amend the motion and vote again. But we have a motion and a second on the table, and we are discussing it. If someone make a motion to amend the motion, we can vote on that. Would we be following?
You wanna do the amendment first?
It is, yes. Is there an amendment to the motion on the table?
Is that amendment to just go with the 4?
If that's the,
Do whatever you want.
Okay, then I would like to make that amendment. I have a second.
all right.
Second.
We have a second, and let me make sure I'm clear. Your amendment is to vote on only the 4 screeners that are recommended by the Deal Center, correct?
Because I
just asking the
Let
question.
me just make this statement. Yesterday I said, we have a chance for 4 high-quality screeners that are all in the top level across the state. And so why don't we step out and in the spirit of the law and in the spirit of what was done to do for kids, why don't we step out and give this a chance? We've done the other, as you said, it's probably not gonna bubble up at the end anyway, so why continue with something? Let's get something in place that we know will meet every target that Ms. Purcell just talked about, that screener. For every teacher, we might find out that it's less time, the teachers might like it more, and it's more effective for the identification of what they need. They can get their flags on characteristics of dyslexia, what's the deficits that they're having with reading. We can align those resources quickly, and we can move into a multi-tiered approach. So I'd like to amend what's on the floor and ask that we vote.
All right, Ms. Rice has made a motion for an amendment to the motion that's currently on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Kennemore seconds. All right, there is vote on the amendment, correct? Robert's Rules experts, are
So
we?
we're voting on whether or not to amend it or not.
We're gonna
voting whether or
vote
not to
on
amend
whether
it.
to amend the motion or not.
Correct.
All right.
If that fails, then you go back to the original.
That's
If it passes,
correct.
then it's
Correct.
amended.
If the vote to amend the motion fails, then we go back to the original motion and second. All right?
And if you have ties,
Ties fail.
they fail.
And a tie fails, that's correct. All right, all in favor of voting to amend the motion as stated by Ms. Rice, signify by raising your hand. We have 5 in favor of amending the motion. All in favor of opposing the amendment to the motion on the floor, signify by raising your hand. All right, we have 8 votes in opposing the amendment to the motion, 5 in favor. The chair abstains. So the motion to amend fails. We're now returning to the original motion made by Mr. Valadares and seconded by, I believe, Ms. Zoller. All in favor of the motion to approve the screeners as recommended, the top, well, you all know what they are, signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, all opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, the motion to approve the 5 screeners as recommended in the motion passes. Thank you. All right, let's move on. We have other business items. And the timing on this probably couldn't be worse, but we need to vote on our slate of officers for the 2025 State Board of Education. We are in the middle of our 2-year cycle, so the recommendation is to the slate of officers as yours truly as chair, Ms. Petty as vice chair, and Mr. Donaldson as vice chair of appeals. Can I entertain a motion?
It is an honor to entertain, to make that motion. You've done a wonderful job as chair. Appreciate your leadership. The leadership team is wonderful. And as immediate past chair, which you will find out is the best role to have, I am honored to make the motion that the slate be approved.
Second, Mr. Daniel, a second from Mr. Benton. Any discussion? All in favor of the slate as proposed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. Are there, Mr. Woods, good to have you here with us. I know you've got a full schedule today. I think you heard the vote at the end, so you know where we landed on the screener issue. Any other business for the good of the order? With that, I want to thank those of you that brought Fenna for the snowmen, and all of you that brought gifts for us. I want to again thank the Valadarises for hosting us last night. I want to thank the department staff and Superintendent Woods for the relentless work that they do, and it probably doesn't, you don't get enough credit. I'll tell you that right now. But thank you for the work you do. I wish all of you, Ms. Kennemore.
Did you vote on our calendar for next year?
We did. We did vote on the calendar.
Change.
Yeah, with the Monday, the Tuesday.
Yeah, with the Tuesday, Wednesday change for January. Yes, thank you. With that, I wish all of you a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas, and we are adjourned.
Took mine to call.